We'll try a different tool. Okay, but let's do this. So we are live on Instagram, we are live on Periscope, and we are live on Facebook. So hello, my name is Michael. I'm the CEO and founder of Nozbe, and you are?
And I'm Radek. I'm the VP of Engineering at Nozbe.
That's correct. And we are today going to talk about remote work. Today is another episode, another live. We're trying to help right now when people are being forced to do remote work. We have 13 years plus of experience in remote work. Our entire team of 23 people is all remote. We've always been remote. We've never had an office. This is my home office. And we want to help. And today, so in the previous episodes, we talked about how to set up remote work. We talked about some of the apps that we use. Today, we'll talk about communication in an all-remote team. And we'll try to give you some examples, how to communicate effectively in an all-remote team, how to get stuff done together in an all-remote team. Contrary to some popular or unpopular opinions that, you cannot be creative in a remote team, you cannot get stuff done together in a remote team. This is just for solitude, for just, lonely rangers. Well, that's not true. You can really be creative. You can really get stuff done in an all-remote team, and we'll talk about that today.
That's right. And as an example, we'll talk about how we communicate in our teams in the example of the development team, which is my team.
Yes, which is your team. So, so basically, when our dev team is focused on building Nozbe, our app, and Nozbe Teams, our new team collaboration app, which will launch tomorrow probably. So anyway, how you can, so the first things first, like we write code together, we communicate features together, like the whole thing. So let's start with code. What do you do with the code? How do you code together, yet, from different places?
All right, Michael, give me 1 second as I'm sharing our live on Facebook.
Okay.
I don't have any typos. Remote work, answering a question about working from home. Okay, let's post and now let's answer. Okay, so yeah, in the dev team, we mostly work on the code. So for any industry, for any team, you'll probably have some tool that's specific to your work. Actually, most things about working from home is going to be about tools and practices that are going to be common to everybody, all companies, all teams. But let's start with mine. So for us, nothing special. Everybody who writes code together uses GitHub. So this is a tool specific for that. If you're a developer, I'm sure you know about it. If you have any, if you're anywhere near it, you probably heard about it. But there are so many tools which are like it for different applications, right? So if you're a designer and you want to collaborate on design, you might want to use something like Figma, right? That's a tool for collaborative design. If your main work is producing text, so that could be anything, right? Like that could be a blog post, that could be a marketing report, anything. Then there's so many tools. Everybody uses Google Docs these days, it seems like, and it's pretty good for that. What we use and what we would recommend for collaborating on text is Dropbox Paper. We also mentioned this yesterday. Is pretty great. It's pretty powerful, and everybody can work on the text, add comments, and everybody sees what's happening.
Yeah. We use Dropbox Paper when we want to collaborate on a text that that we want to see that people are commenting and what's happening. But once we write really like specific texts, like sales letters, like a text for like marketing texts, very often we start with Dropbox Paper, but later we move it also to GitHub, which is funny enough that we also in marketing team writing texts use GitHub because there is version control. You have all the backups, you have the version control, you can see what's happening, you can see the changes. So so it's a mixture of both of these tools.
Yeah, but this is more advanced,
Yes.
and we're going to focus on the basics. Give an example that's not necessarily going to be applicable to you in today's Q&A or on today's show, I guess. But yeah, that's what we do. Um, so let's talk about the dev team in particular and the basics of how we work day to day, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I think the most important practice that we do that we can easily recommend to newcomers to working from home is daily stand up. So what we used to do and what I would recommend for beginners at remote work is to every day, every morning, we did 10 a.m. You can do 9, whatever suits you. Um, a short meeting, like 20 minutes usually, where everybody in the team goes over what I did yesterday, what I'm planning to do today, and what are my problems. Is there anything blocking me? Right? Um, this is very important for a couple of reasons. Um, First of all, in remote work, especially when you can't, or it's not so easy, and we wouldn't recommend you like bother everybody, tap them on the shoulder virtually every 5 minutes to check what they're doing, right? Like that's not what we do in the dev team. It's very important for us to have long stretches, many hours of interrupted time, so we can focus, because this is like highly technical and highly creative work. We need that level of focus,
Yeah.
but we still need to know what's happening, right? So that's why we have the daily stand up. So this is the perfect balance between everybody knowing what's going on, the manager knowing what's going on, but for most of the rest of the day, like no video meetings, just focused work, right? And the problems part is important, and for people new to remote work, this is going to be a great opportunity to be everyone together, like you would be in, like you're used to being in the office, being able to, make an all hands meeting, or um, if you're new to working from home, you're going to have a ton of problems kind of finding yourself in this new environment. um, yeah, this is a great opportunity to figure that out together. And then for the most of the rest of the day, we don't do that, right? No video meetings.
Yeah, I mean, what you'll find, like when you move right now to remote work, because you're forced to because of the situation right now that we're facing, is that doing remote work will force you to reevaluate anyway the meetings. Like in dev team, not dev team, like any meeting will be you'll question like whether it's really necessary, because you'll find so much stretches of uninterrupted time that you would want to use them to actually deliver a great work. So this is something that will happen to everyone, I think. So that they will like copying the idea of just having meetings like we used to
Mhm.
every now and then will not work. And also because you'll have kids at home or like some other things, like you will not want to have too many meetings. You will want also to have your meetings predictable. That's why what you said is that
Yeah.
having a meeting, like for example for dev team, like every day at 10 a.m. is a predictable meeting. Then you can build also your routines around that. So you can wake up in the morning. I
Mhm.
remember that you said that you would wake up at 8, you would do some breakfast, and at 8:30 you would like do a lighter task until 10, and then at 10 you would have the meeting. After the meeting you would do another task. So this way
Yeah.
you can build up because when you work from home, the key is to build this structure, to build this kind of routines, because this will help you to really perform in a good way. That's why ad hoc meetings, ad hoc tapping on the shoulder, ad hoc calling people is not really what you do when you do remote work.
Yeah, that's right. And speaking of the meeting, here's another thing that becomes very natural and obvious when working from home, which is that the time, the hours of work are completely flexible. So for new remote workers, I would generally recommend that you do set for yourself a schedule, and it's any sort of schedule that will work for you. But expect that in the coming weeks that probably won't work. Life is probably going to be completely crazy for you. But this is, well, I would say this is normal. This is not normal. Okay, this is not an usual situation. But what I'm getting at here is that if you're at the office and you're used to people collaborating by being face to face and speaking to each other all the time, it 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 pushes you for everybody to be at the office at roughly the same time, plus minus 1 or 2 hours, right? When you do pretty much only the daily stand-up as the only video meeting in the dev team as we do, and actually we only do it on Mondays. On other days, this practice is text only, but that's what I would recommend for more advanced teams, not for newcomers.
That's correct.
But sorry, I'm getting so deep into this. Point is, people in the dev team work at different hours. I tend to work 8:30 to 4:30 because it happens to work for me. But a lot of people have children and have many like chores or responsibilities in life that they have to attend to.
Yeah.
Bonds. And many people will work for 4 or 5 hours in the morning and then a couple of hours at night. And it's fine because most of our communication, most of our working together is not face to face. It's not at the same time, but through tasks, asynchronous.
Yes.
That's what we call this. But what this essentially means is not at the same time. And this is going to be a big cultural change for people used to working together at the office, tapping each other on the shoulder, having meetings to resolve issues. Like that's complete 180. But what we do is most of our work together happens through tasks in our own app, Nozbe Teams, right? So for the development team, most stuff is in like 3 projects, so 3 different lists of tasks. One is for main work that we're mostly working on right now, and we'll have their sections, so like groups of tasks for different features, right? So recently we've been finishing up payments, and we're not done yet. So we'll be shipping Nozbe Teams without payments and just give it away for free because like people really need this tool right now. We've been finishing up attachments, and those have been different sections, right? So everything is grouped together, and most of our collaboration is in the task. There's a discussion, there's comments, right? So I don't want this to be an ad. Like we want to help people. So there are many tools like it, some better, some worse, different tools for different companies, like depending on how you work together. So check out, but like having things in text connected the discussion to a task, which is assigned to a person responsible for it, is a very powerful way to communicate because you don't have to bother each other all the time to like figure out details of how to do something.
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing is the most important thing is that the collaboration, for example, in the dev team, like there is a code-based collaboration in GitHub. Like there you put code, and sometimes when you do pull requests, of course, you also comment there in the code. But the main features of Nozbe, the main features we work on, everything that's happening in Nozbe, we put our tasks in. We put our tasks in Nozbe. We have projects, tasks, and we have sections of projects in Nozbe Teams. So we group together tasks, and then we have comments. So in the comments, what we do is we in the comments is where we happen to iron out the details and like talk about the big picture, like what's really going on. And this way, it's really helpful that we have this discussion about the features, the big picture in a different place than the code itself, because not everything is code. Some things are design, so some things are marketing. So this way, marketing can have their own tools to do marketing stuff. We can have the XD design situation where we use the to design our product. We also have write-ups of design in Dropbox Paper. So all these tools all these tools are are used for their own purpose. So code, design, all that stuff. But then the big picture discussion, the most important discussion on features, on parts of our app, happens actually in the app, happens in the projects, tasks, and comments in the app. And as you said, it's very nice to see that, when you see have a task, you can see who's responsible for which task. So again, you can for your team, you can use any project management, task management tool you want. We would prefer you try Nozbe Teams. But of course, there are other tools like this. There's Basecamp, Asana. There are other tools like this. But it's good to communicate like this, that you have a dedicated place like this. Like how you always call it like a single source of truth, right? So
Yes.
the most important information happens there, and then everything goes from there. Like then we link, GitHub pull requests, we get, Dropbox paper documents, other documents, marketing documents. Like we link from the comments to of a task.
Let me expand on the idea of a single source of truth. This is really important. So what happens in many companies, and this is a general practice, this doesn't even have to do with working from home, but what happens is that information is everywhere, right? And like people have to make so many meetings to get on the same page, meaning to
Right.
have the same information so that they know what we agreed on and yada yada yada. And or it happens over email, right? And whether or not you're CC'd, like if you're CC'd on everything, it's a mess. There's so much stuff. It's not nicely grouped together. You can't figure it out. Or if you're not CC'd on everything, that you don't know things that might be relevant to your work. So that's the advantage of having a project management tool of some sort, like Nozbe Teams or what have you, because then this is the source of truth. So even if I feel like, okay, I need to hash out the details really quick, I don't have time to write a comment and wait hours or until next day until, say, Hubert, our designer, answers me. Like, no, I'm gonna go quick one-on-one over Slack or even over video to hash out the details, to talk in person. But then I put the decision in the task, because everybody in the company can see this task and they can follow the project or not. If they're interested in it, they can follow it, and they'll have it on a queue separate from a queue that's like, you need to work on this, and there's a queue of like stuff that's happening, right? So they can view it or they can ignore it, like not follow it. Or if they're searching for it, like they'll find the information there. This is really important. It's much harder to do this with email because everything is spread around or you're just not CC'd. It's harder to do this over Slack because it's chat, right? So there's so much mess and it's hard to find the end answer, the decision, right? And if it happens on meetings, then again, either you've been on a meeting and you've spent an hour just to be on the same page, or you haven't and you don't know it. And if you have a tool like Nozbe Teams or like whatever project management tool where you put stuff in text, then you know what's the decision. So this is really important, actually.
The important stuff, like one key takeaway from this whole conversation about working from home, you will want to learn to stop using email for collaboration internally. You will want to use email only externally with people you work outside with, but you will not want to use this internally. You would want to use a tool like Nozbe Teams or any other like project management tool where you have the single source of truth, because in email you'll have the mess of emails from other people, emails from your team, all attachments, all that stuff. So that's why this is so important. This is key. Like, don't use email internally. Use and that's also the key why, for example, even now at this time when we have the virus and we are, for example, forced to stay at home, even with the kids, I can go up for 2 hours and work very effectively because I know exactly the ways I communicate with my team. I know exactly what to do, how to get my message across, how to give feedback. We have we have established rules of communication, and I urge you trying to do remote work right now to find these kind of tools like Nozbe Teams, like Dropbox Paper or Google Docs, like all these or GitHub, or all these tools that can help you collaborate better. This is a good time because it's a big change anyway. Like you're not in the office anyway, so it's a good time to find a new tool which is much more efficient. And then even after this whole thing blows over and you come back to the office, at least you'll have new habits and new good productivity habits, because you will have discovered new better tools to work together, and you will not want to go back to the old mess just because you're together in the office.
All right. We're 25 minutes in, so we could seriously talk about this for hours. So I'm going to say one more thing, and then I want to get to questions. So please bring us questions.
Please post questions. We have already 2 questions here coming up, and hopefully more. So let's just keep them coming.
Yeah, and remember, we're doing this every day until the end of the week, and probably more. We'll see. So, we'll have way more opportunities to tell you about how we work, and you'll have more opportunities to ask us questions. But I want to add one more thing. Michael, I think you're completely right. I even when this blows over, and seriously, it's not week or 2. You'll be in this for weeks at least. So, step back, accept that the next week or 2 will suck, will be hard, you'll not be very productive, but this will take a while longer. So slow down, expect lower productivity, and figure out very basic tools. Like, we've been doing this for years, like years of experience, but even if you spend a day, like a couple of hours here, those are there, like do a few Google searches and set up your team on a few tools like what we just discussed, it'll be much easier for you. And then when this blows over, you'll discover that you should allow people to work from home sometimes. Or maybe if they just catch a common cold, like why would you tell them to come to the office and infect other people, right? Like, once you have those tools, even if you go back to the office, like, you'll see that some of these practices are truly just better even if you're in the office. All right. I'm going to answer one question. Mike St. Pierre, fellas, did you just say it's launching tomorrow? That's a pretty big piece of news. Yeah, it seems so. Like, we've been planning this. We've been preparing for this for weeks, for months, and we've been planning a huge launch party. And Mike, the launch party is canceled because there's a pandemic. But we're launching anyway. Like, and we're not even done with like accepting payments. But like, people need this tool right now. So we'll just keep iterating over it and ship new versions every week, but it's got to be out.
Yeah, so in one of the recent episodes of the podcast, we talk, Lean at Nozbe, we talk about how we ship every week a new version of Nozbe Teams. And we will launch Nozbe Teams tomorrow without any fanfare, without any party, because there is no way to do a party right now. Like, and we actually accelerated the launch just because, even though we are not ready with payments, so that people can get Nozbe Teams right now. Nozbe Teams is a tool that was built based on our experience of collaborating with Nozbe. But now we want to steer that. We want to be a 2-product company, to have Nozbe as a personal tool and Nozbe Teams for teams, like for new teams. Like, the current teams who use Nozbe, they should stick with what they like, what they use. But I think we believe more teams and more businesses, especially now, need a new collaboration tool that is purely thought from the get-go, from the beginning, for teams. And this is why we're launching Nozbe Teams. And as a gift, and because we have great paying customers for Nozbe, we can afford to even give Nozbe Premium. So Nozbe Teams Premium for the first month completely for free. And we'll just, at some point, we'll just add payments, and then we will invite people to pay. But Nozbe Teams will have a free tier of 5 projects and up to 5 people, and then we'll have a premium tier. It's going to be really affordable, really, really great. And most of all, this is how we rethought team productivity based on everything we know so far, based on these 13 years of our experience. So we'll talk more about it tomorrow once we launch. So tomorrow is going to be like a small launch party, but really no fanfare, no big marketing push, because our focus right now is to give you value, is to talk about remote work, is to help people who need this, who need getting hang of the remote work. We've just had to completely readjust our priorities and focus on that. So that's why the situation.
All right. Question from Tomasz, sub brother. Any of you use Excel 365 to work on one file by more people? I tried once and fails. Greetings from Poland. All right. The answer is no. We don't use Office 365, but I know of people who do try this and um, did have this exact same frustration this week that uh, they're using Excel to collaborate on files this week, and it's terrible because when multiple people try to access it, like everything breaks. So I'm afraid I can't give any recommendation other than I've never had issue with the Google's spreadsheet. I forget the name, but that they're much less advanced. So if you use like really advanced features like scripting, then you probably have no choice but to use Excel. But yeah, I unfortunately I feel like the best course of action right now, if you're sharing Excel files, is just good communication. Like tell people, okay, now I'm working on this, and then you work on it, save it, close the file. Now you can work on this. This is awful. This is terrible. This is not how tools for remote work should work. But this is the best recommendation I have right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you should try different tools. Like, for example, in our case, we have tried also using even Apple's numbers, and it's not actually that bad to use it collaboratively. But Google Docs, I think, has the most experience. I mean, Google Spreadsheets is very advanced. I mean, enough advanced, let's say, and it's really works well with multiple people just being there, and it doesn't crash. So their iOS app for the iPad, they're not that good, but they do work reliably. So this is another thing I would urge you to try. As I said, try new tools like for sharing like text, like the same with Google Docs, for example. When you write something on Google Docs, instead of sending Word document, just use Google Docs and comment on the document in the Google Docs, and see the history in Google Docs. And the same thing goes like with what we use, Dropbox Paper. It's not really the best writing experience ever, but the cool thing is you can write on any device. And there's another thing. Yeah, you can write on any device and you can comment on text. So that's why we like Dropbox Paper, and it comes included with Dropbox anyway. And we all have Dropbox Premium in our company. But the thing is that one of our values, and one of the key things, again, is that we use tools that work on any platform, because we want to make sure that we have access to the information from anywhere. That when you when you want to have a video conference, and for example, like people and your home office, if for example is in the living room, and you still want to, and there are kids in your living room right now watching something, so what you do, you would just take, for example, your iPad, go somewhere else, like and like to a bedroom, and then have a video conference there. And thanks to the fact that, for example, Zoom, that we talked about yesterday, works on the iPad, then you can really have that. And the same goes with apps like Dropbox Paper. The same goes with our Nozbe and Nozbe Teams. We want to make sure that our apps work perfectly on any device. That's why, for example, we know for a fact we can launch tomorrow Nozbe Teams, because our apps for the iOS and for Android are approved, so we can launch them, and we'll launch them tomorrow morning. So this is another key. Find apps, tools that are good for collaborative work and that work on any platform. This way, even you're leaving your work, and then you can always pull out the phone and just add a comment somewhere and just hide it. It's not the ideal experience on the phone, but it works. So this is the key. So yeah, now you are kind of forced, like you will have to work from home. So trying new tools, I think, is a good way to try to shake things up.
All right, this is your last chance to viewer on Facebook, Instagram, and Periscope to ask questions. And if there's no question in the next 10 seconds, then we'll be finishing for today, tonight, this afternoon, depending on your time zone, and we'll be back tomorrow. So are there any questions? Kuba, are there any questions on Facebook? No?
There was one more question that I got earlier. How do you manage unread comments in Slack? I mean, it auto reads them, and in frequent communications, things get overlooked. So this is key. That's why we don't use Slack for getting stuff done. We use Slack to communicate quickly, to just, shake things up. And it's our internal water cooler as well. We have like random channel, and all the communications always in Slack go to random anyway. But what happens is that if there is something actionable happening on Slack, there is a task to be done, it goes to our task manager, it goes to Nozbe Teams, because we don't want to make sure we want to make sure that we don't miss it. Then that people don't have to scroll and distill the communication, which is like the noise, the noise versus signal versus noise ratio is very bad on Slack. That's why again we have that structured. Like, we chat on Slack, but we really put thoughtful comments to tasks in Nozbe Teams. This way, when something is actionable, it goes to Nozbe Teams as a task to make sure that it will get done, that somebody will be assigned to it, somebody will be responsible for it, somebody will give good feedback to it. Like, because of all that, that's why Slack is not a place to get stuff done. I mean, people say, yes, Slack is so much better than email. Well, it kind of is, but it's also, it is in the sense that you have your whole team in one place, which is great. So it's outside of the email. That's why Slack is so good. But then for getting stuff done, please use a dedicated task manager, because like a collaborative task manager, because in Slack, things just get lost so quickly.
All right, and I think the last question, Sujan Mohinani, I think, on Instagram. Sorry for screwing up your name. Are you live streaming the launch party? Can we stream in for a remote beer? I don't think so. I would say the launch party is canceled. There's just a launch. So I think we'll mention it on Twitter. I think we'll mention it in tomorrow's edition of our live Q&A in Polish, Spanish, and English. But we're not making a big deal out of it, because people just have more important things right now, and we want to get this out there. So you can check it out. If you like it, you can share it on social media. We definitely appreciate it. But I think we'll just do it slow and just give the tool so that people can use it. But just not the right time to like have a strong marketing push with a product. Like, that's just not the right time.
Yeah, but we can, I'll have a nice, maybe sip of champagne. Like, why not? Like, it's 8 p.m. My time right now. I mean, right now. So 8 p.m. tomorrow, it's going to be evening. Well, we can open a beer or something, like, and if our viewers can do it with us, perfectly. I'm fine with that. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking, and like we haven't discussed this before. Like, this is live, because like just like an hour ago, Rafa, our VP of product, like sent us on the directors channel on Slack a message that both Google and Apple approved the production, the official version. So like we haven't discussed this, but I think maybe we can start a second stream, or like an after show, after like teaching people, answering Q&A. Then maybe we can do a subtle kind of launching party, maybe.
Exactly. So we'll see how this goes. Like, this is really spontaneous. Like, we'll see like what we do tomorrow. But so there's one good comment here on Instagram that like, lots of managers are just used to their email. That's why how to switch them from email to a tool like Nozbe or Nozbe Teams. So I would say do it slowly. Like, what we have found out is on our current Nozbe customers who use Nozbe in Teams, is that there's always one champion. There's always one person on the team who understands that we need a tool like this, that I cannot live with email anymore. And what they do is they go slowly. They invite some people over. Lots of them are skeptical, like, whatever. And then they create a first project and start working on this first project. They just ask for this one project. They just do it there. And once you start with the first project and you start doing it there, then you realize, it's not really that bad. Actually, it's really convenient. Actually, and then when you force them kind of, or nudge them to maybe download, the iOS app or the Android app, then people start, getting the hang of it. And I think, we had this example of in Nozbe that a big law firm had this managing partner using Nozbe, and he was managing the whole law firm from an iPhone. So for him, for example, the iOS app was good. So maybe the managers just need to see that there is a cool iOS app, so they'll just use the iOS app and like, I can have everything. I see all my projects here on my palm of my hands. This is really good. So maybe something like that. I don't know. Like, there are ways to do it.
Yeah. So here's what I would try. Here's what I would maybe recommend is, so in companies, what seems like it's usually happening is, again, most communication is either in-person meetings or email, right? And a lot of it is happening kind of one-to-one or one-to-two between employees. That's like a ton of threads are like that, and then a ton of threads where like the manager is interested in like knowing what's happening, having an opportunity to lead, to influence what's going to happen. So look, you can, like, if you're going to use something like Nozbe Teams to communicate in your team, and you can create your project and you can have your tasks, and most communication will still be just between the members of the team. And normally we wouldn't do it, but if we want to onboard someone who's so used to being CC'd on every email, you can just like at mention them. So like when writing a comment, you can do at, and then you'll see the list of people in the project, and you just mention the manager, and they'll get it in push notification. They'll get it on their phones. They'll get it in the app, and they'll have it, this task, when they've been mentioned, in a separate bucket called incoming, with stuff that requires their attention, right? So normally, like at Nozbe, when we work together, we very rarely mention managers. Like only people we know, like we need their input, or we know they're going to be interested. The rest, we just assume they either follow the project if they want to be notified of it or not. But if someone is used to working in a way where they're CC'd on every message, like that's a great way, because they'll get a push notification on their phones, right? They can react quickly. And so for them, it's not much of a difference, just that it's not an email, but still the app opens, the thread opens, it's just slightly different, right? It's better because it's more organized, but for them, they can keep most of the same habits.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So let's see how this goes. There is a comment from Tomasz Pie saying that he'll stick with the old school approach of sending emails, Excel files via email. Don't, please don't. And then Tom Stubbs is saying congrats. And he's asking for an emergency app kit. So like the apps that we recommend. I think it's a good idea. I think we can do something like that.
Yeah, this is a great idea.
Yeah, so I'll try to write something up tomorrow, like to have like a place where we can just point people to this place, like the apps we use, the ways we use it, very briefly, and this way they can go with our way of getting stuff done. And like, yeah, it's a great idea. Thanks, Tom. We'll definitely do it. All right.
All right. I have a few. I have a slightly different take on those two comments. For Tomasz Pierre, if you were using a more organized tool like Nozbe Teams, and you have to, so yeah, sometimes you have no choice. You don't have a dedicated collaborative tool, or like you have one like Office 365, but it's failing, right? So if you have to trade files back and forth, then it's still nice if it's not in an email, but an attachment to a comment in a task for all the benefits we've discussed before, right? Because it's a thread, it's both files, it's comments, it has a person who's assigned, so everybody can see who's responsible for it, and everybody in the team, the manager, all the team members have more control over like following stuff that's important or interesting to them, and like ignoring things that are not. Whereas in email, like others make the decision for you by either including or not including you in CC. Yeah, as for Tom Stubbs' question or comment, he says, talk more about how task and project are defined in the GTD world. So I think maybe we can get more into this in the future Q&As and more explain what we mean by some of our concepts.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Although we must say that with Nozbe Teams, with our new app, which is created first and foremost for teams, we slightly move beyond GTD. So for those of you listening who are not familiar with this, GTD is this getting things done. This is this methodology for taking care of your, well, mostly personal or one-person tasks, like things you have to do in life. And that's kind of the story of Nozbe, the company. Like, this was built not as a tool for teams. This was born as a tool for one busy professionals, you, to like take care of your stuff, right? But what we've noticed is many of the concepts from the GTD methodology work really well in team context, and many not exactly. And there are many concepts which are lacking, right? So Nozbe Teams is kind of going beyond GTD, and many of your experience, if you're experienced with GTD, will still be applicable. But since we're building this primarily for teams, either companies or groups of any sort, really, there are differences which we think make it better to work together and not just be one person who maybe shares this one project with someone else. I hope that makes sense. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're done here. About the apps that we use, actually, I forgot that I have this ebook, No Office Apps. So if you go to my website, sliwinski.com, Kuba can link to it. There is an ebook called No Office Apps. So these are the apps that we use. We're gonna write it up anyway on the page. I think it's a good idea. So,
yeah.
All right. So
all right.
We're good. See you tomorrow at the same time. Like we have, on our virtual, not launch party, and we'll talk more later this week also about how to collaborate, how to really do better meetings, and how to use these apps better. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for being together.
Thank you so much. I hope that was helpful. Please bring more questions tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right.